Talk a bit about this film before I chat to Maddie. This was Hammer's 7th and final Frankenstein movie. It restored Peter Cushing to the role, to the Baron, after the previous horror Frankenstein, which featured Ralph Bates, was made as a younger Victor Frankenstein in a more comic role, which I think most Hammer fans agree didn't quite work, horror Frankenstein. So it was nice to bring the original Baron back to make this film. Of course, Dave Prowse played the monster, Shane Bryant played his assistant, and of course the female lead, because there were not any other females in it as such, was Madeline Smith, our guest. Always a joy to chat to Maddie. How was it? Because let me start with the history of your life, because well, the last screening we did, Caroline started life off as a model.
So did I.
And you did as well.
Well, I'd a little bit earlier than that. When I was rather miserably at my convent school.
You went to a convent school? Because Caroline went to a convent school.
Yeah, but not the same one. Oh, right. Not the same one, although we did meet later. So when I was dismally in my convent school, I used to get the 27 bus to Kensington and go and try on frocks at Bieber's Emporium. I was transported. I was in seventh heaven in this place. And I asked the manageress if, after my last terrible day in convent school, I could please come and have a job there. I was sort of spotted while working in Bieber. I went to Lucy Clayton and said to them, would they take me on as a model? Of course we'll take you on, she said. So I was a very happy model girl with Lucy Clayton, which was based in Bond Street, and I had a great life. And in between times, I did a bit of acting.
Right, because a lot of models drift sort of into acting.
Well, I'd already kind of drifted, because when I was left Bieber before joining Lucy Clayton, I answered an ad in The Stage for a film called The Mini Mob, and they gave me a screen test, and I got the part with Georgie Fame, a lovely little film, and thought, I like this very much. And I was absolutely ghastly in it. I've seen it, and it's the worst performance in a film. You talk about B movies, this was a D movie with me in it. I looked like a scarecrow, thought I was the bee's knees, and I was terrible. I had this high voice, talking like that.
You used to talk like that.
I did talk like that because my voice was like that.
What happened then? When did it suddenly change?
For some extraordinary reason, Dudley Moore's agent took me out for lunch. I think he had designs on me. And this is some time later, and he said to me, why do you talk like that? Do you have to talk like that? And I was so hurt. I said, but this is my voice. Oh, come on, he said, you're putting it on. So I decided to go to acting classes, and every Saturday I would disappear to the City Lit, where I would do voice classes and acting classes and all the right things, and gradually over the years, my voice came down. But it really was up here.
It was, yes.
Yes, and when I did the two Ronnies, and I narrated the Henrietta in the two Ronnies, I can't bear to listen to it now. I say, dear reader, yes. But honestly, that was truly my voice.
The role you had in Taste the Blood of Dracula.
Right,
How did you get that part?
Well, I'd done the modelling, I'd done the mini-mob. In order to get the mini-mob, I had to be taken by the hand to an agent in order to become a member of Equity. And this lady took me on, her name was Joan Gray, and she said, I'm afraid you have to become a member of Equity, and we shall pretend that you are doing a commercial for Hands. So we pretended that I was doing a commercial for Hands. Equity thought that was lovely. They accepted me as a
hand artist
God knows, as a probationary member. I had a little probationary card for years, because you genuinely had to do 40 weeks. You could be probationary, okay, you've done a little job. Anyway, so I did the mini-mob, and some of my weeks went on that. And through that, got an agent. She used to ring me occasionally while I was modelling and say, are you interested in going for a part? Are you interested in doing a bit more acting? I said, oh, yes, please. So I went to meet Aida Young, who was a bit scary, and I think I went to Hammer House for that.
I may have seen you then. That's when I worked there.
I looked like a skeleton at the time.
Well, no, not really. You had a couple of interesting points.
They were only quite small at the time.
Well, I remember.
They were a little bit undernourished. They got bigger and better over that Christmas, but most of you know that story. It wasn't a major part. And Ida Young was quite happy to give it to me, I think. And I wore this little white ruffled outfit, didn't I? And I didn't know that was a bordello or...
You weren't told the plot then?
No, and I probably didn't read the script anyway. I was never very hot on lines. I sort of winged it, or wunged it. I remember that I was a virgin at the time, didn't know what was going on.
Was that required by the casting at the
What,
time?
being a virgin?
Oh, yes. Because you were in a bordello playing a...
Well, they obviously wanted somebody who looked and was innocent, yes? Because my name was Dolly in it, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Yes, Dolly. So there you are. I wasn't much of an actress at the time. Didn't really know what I was doing. Who was it? Peter Sasdy was the director, wasn't it?
Yes, that one.
Wasn't it? Yeah. They were lovely actors, those. I adored being with John Carson and Geoffrey Keane. Yeah.
But Vampire Lovers, when that came along, were
Well,
you
it
under
didn't
contract?
actually come along as such. It came in staggered stages because although I apparently was just given the part without auditioning, I had a very... does anybody know this story about the breasts? No.
Yes, carry on.
Oh, well, if you don't know it, it's quite good, yes. Well, I didn't have much. I mean, you're very polite and everything, but I didn't have much, Phil. And if you saw me looking bosomy, I think you must have stuck them on with your imagination.
I think there's a few photographs.
I think I got... but yes. So I think I got the Vampire Lovers because I looked innocent, okay? I genuinely think that's how that happened. So I had the script and it seemed all quite innocent, and the phone went, and it was Michael Stiles, one of the producers, asking me, did I mind answering a few questions? We lived in a house that had a long dresser. It was a horrible old, well, it was not a horrible old house, but it was a completely unrestored Victorian house. I had a long dresser. I remember the telephone was on the dresser. I remember standing there, taking the call. Oh, God, it's Michael Stiles, one of the producers, right, you know. And I'm standing there, and of course, obviously, my dad and everybody all earwigging away. And, because I was living at home. And did I mind him asking me what my measurements were? Because he was a little bit concerned that as I was going to be wearing some fairly low-cut dresses, that I might not be quite voluptuous enough, you see. He was a bit concerned I might be a bit thin. And I said, don't worry about it, Mr. Stiles. I will drink lots of milk and have lots of yogurts before we start filming after Christmas in January. And I was true to my word, I did. I gobbled cheese and yogurts and milk until they were coming out of my ears and everywhere else. And by the time I started on the Vampire Lovers, well, I was all right. I wasn't huge or anything, but I was all right. There was enough there to fill the part.
I think...
Old Ingrid Pitt was okay, wasn't she?
Well, I was going to ask you about it, because the scenes with Ingrid, were you kind of surprised when they suddenly said, right...
Well, again, A, I was still a virgin, okay? B, I hadn't been warned about it.
Really?
And C, I now realise why he made the phone call. Has everybody seen Vampire Lovers? Yeah? Had a wonderful director, Roy Ward Baker, and he was appalled when Michael Stiles came up to me and said, your performance is boring. Everybody is going to fall asleep. Will you please hot it up? What I was supposed to be doing was pretending to be having an orgasm. I didn't know what an orgasm was. So he started talking about orgasms and went around holding a very large salami in an appropriate place. All of this is true. And I'm lying there on the bed, pretending to be dying and having this, what I just said. And a cat is coming to me in the night. Oh, yeah. Yes, and the camera's on my face. And he's, with his hot breath, he's whispering into my ear all these horrible things, you see. And I'm absolutely startled. And Roy Woodmaker came, pushed him off the set, got rid of him, and said to me, well, look, pretend, you know, you're moaning and groaning and you're having a nasty dream, Maddie. So that's what I did. So when you see the performance, that's what I'm doing.
It can all be fixed in post, you see.
Exactly. Does anybody know, what I will reveal, that I had a very deep voice in that film? And talk like this.
Did you?
Yes.
I thought you still had your voice like that.
Nope, they dubbed me.
Really? No, I didn't know that. Oh.
I took a very sort of husky voice I put in that. Yeah, somebody else dubbed me. In fact, some woman came up to me and said, that was me, I did you.
They used to do that all the time, though, dubbing the actresses. Hammer. For some
Oh, on the
reason.
breasts, I didn't talk about the bosoms.
No,
That's
they
interesting.
didn't dub
what
your
Phil's
breasts
saying.
as well, did they?
Nearly. They would have done, wouldn't they? Anyway, I was told, of course, there's old Ingrid, longing to get her togs off, sitting in the bath, you know.
She seemed more experienced, didn't she?
She was a lot more experienced. And I thought she didn't look old, but she looked older than me and was hardly older than I was. Yeah. Japanese version. I was told it was for a Japanese version. Yeah. And I said, oh, that's all right then. Did I mind just taking my clothes off briefly in the scene, very briefly, and not to worry about it. And of course, all the cameras were going, you know, like this, frantic. And I said, oh, well, if it has to be, you know, it wasn't in the contract or anything. Nobody had spoken to me about it, but, you know, it was so dim and innocent. So I said, well, that's absolutely fine if it's necessary for the plot, yes, of course I will. And that's the story of the Buzzies.
Frankenstein Monster from Hell, when you read the script, I'm intrigued to know, when you read the script and thought,
Don't remember.
Not many lines in this,
Don't remember reading it.
actually, because you play a mute.
My sweeties. Again, I know, but again, I'm not sure. I don't think I ever auditioned for this one. It just came along. And it arrived, and knowing me, I probably didn't even look at it.
She said yes.
Yeah, I said, oh, lovely, yes, thank you very much.
Because I wondered if you'd been a bit disappointed when you read it, thought, I don't say much in
No,
this film at all.
actually, I was really glad to be just able to use my eyes. I thought it was wonderful. No, I was really happy about it. I mean, on a more serious note, I was really pleased. Yeah, it's quite a challenge.
It's good. I mean, you are the female lead in it, because there aren't, the other women in it are just...
Well, they're all balmy.
Yeah, balmy. And yes, they are.
Yeah,
in the nut
they
house.
are.
So that was quite... and then after that, of course, other people were very interested in your part in Live and Let Die.
Oh, yes.
With Roger Moore. He said... he gave you the part, well, no, he suggested, he said, I think...
Well, I think
Madeline should be in this
No, but I'd had rather a mere part in The Persuaders. Most of my parts, chaps, were very mere. I didn't, you know, get huge parts in most things. Occasionally I'd have, like this one, a nice meaty part. But mostly I was a sort of, and introducing Madeline Smith type part. Seriously, when I got the part in Live and Let Die, I don't think I had a character name. I was just called Beautiful Girl.
Oh, right, yeah.
Very nice.
In the blue dress.
Thank you very much, you know, with the hair and all. But she later became Miss Caruso, but I think she started out more or less as an extra. Not many people know that.
Enough of me asking questions. I think we can open the floor up if anybody's got any questions they'd like to ask.
How old were you?
When?
When you...
Bosoms,
wanted to be a
losing the
nurse?
virginity?
No. Sorry, I wanted to interrupt. How old were you when you moved out and were with Alec Guinness on stage? And
Right. Dad and I had our quarrel when I was 22. We had many quarrels, actually, Dad and I. Loads, but we loved each other passionately. But we did lots of that. So I was beginning of 73, so I was 22 and a half when I did the Bond, and 22 and a little bit more when I worked with Alec Guinness, and then I became 23. And I had lost my virginity by that time. I'd done the best stuff, really. I'd done all the wonderful telly by then, which for me was the best, really. I like films, but you have to get up too early. And as they were all made at Boreham Wood, and I was living in Kew. I mean, I was... no sooner was I in bed than I was up again, you know. But I did enjoy it. But my favourite medium, I'll be absolutely honest, was telly. Yeah.
Was it a happy shoot, the film? Because obviously it's one of the last Hammer films, and a lot of critical write-ups about it say that there's almost a melancholy feel to it.
Very much so. I don't know how old Terence Fisher was, but he seemed like a very old man. He was going around with a stick. I didn't know he'd had a car accident, but he was very slow on his feet. He whispered all the instructions. It all seemed very autumnal. I was pissed off at the time, wanting to go off and do something else now anyway. I was genuinely getting bored with it all. That's an awful thing to say, isn't it? But I wanted to sort of use this a little bit, tiny bit. And I really had mucked up at school a lot, and I sort of wanted to get back to studying something. But I did, however, I have to add, I did love doing this film because I found it a challenge. I did. I thought it was wonderful. But so there was an autumnal feel for me, Terence Fisher. Peter Cushing had just lost his wife. He was in a terrible state, drinking only black coffee and sort of lettuce water. You know, lettuce and water was his only food. He was very melancholic, and I think he was sort of saved by the very nice relationship that he had with Shane Bryant. They got on like a house on fire, those two, and were always disappearing into the corner, sort of discussing his notes and how they were going to play the scene. And somebody, I've forgotten who it was, asked me how I got on with Peter Cushing. Well, I actually didn't really have any conversations with him. He was so unhappy at the time that I think what little energy he had, he devoted to playing his scenes really with Shane. Because if you think that I was just going around with my little basket, talking to the nutters, or not talking, but you know, eyeballing the nutters, I felt there was such a melancholic atmosphere that I actually made a decision to keep myself very much to myself, which I did. But it was a very beautiful film and done with a lot of love and care. All the scenes that I have in the lunatic asylum, where I'm going around with my little basket, I'm following, or I'm carrying it like a little trug, aren't I? Those are my favourite scenes by far. And I think those actors, those wonderful character actors, they were stunning, weren't they, Phil? Stunning. They hand-picked. One of the good things, or the key things about Hammer films, is how they hand-picked those character actors. They were always superb. And the one who played my dad, John, whatever his name, wonderful.
The thing about it is they used to have a regular supply of not strange-looking people, but villagers. You see the same villagers.
Yes, you do.
And they used to have they go to an agency and say, we want this type of person.
Weird villagers.
Weird villagers.
Patrick Troughton came up in a cameo, didn't he, in this one?
Yeah, but he's at the front. He's at the
That's it. He used to live in Kew. I used to see him on the train a lot. And of course, I think he was then Doctor Who.
Yes.
I think so. I think he was. A miserable looking git.
How did Dave Prowse take to the costume?
Oh, that costume. It was terrible, that thing. I mean, they made it look good in the film, but I mean, it was just white rubber. Hot. He was always sweating away, poor chap, but he never complained. But he was absolutely boiled alive in there. I think it was relatively comfortable, but, you know. I don't think they spent the earth on that rubber suit.
He could have been anybody underneath that, though. I mean, it was a Darth Vader type
It
role,
was,
really,
wasn't
because
it?
you can't recognise it's Dave Prowse.
No, but without being deeply unkind about Dave, and Dave would be the first to say it, I don't think he was the greatest actor in the world, was he? Really. I don't think he's ever set out to be an actor. No. He just wanted to be in movies.
Yeah,
he was in love with film. And he succeeded, didn't he? My goodness. He's a wonderful raconteur, and he's got many, many gifts. But I don't think he wanted to have lines particularly.
No, apart from Green Cross.
Green Cross Code.
Don't you cross the road? Only
yes.
when it's safe.
And that's his real voice, of course.
Of course. Yeah.
That's Dave. Yes, quite.
I won't be there. You say, I won't be there when you cross the road.
Or you won't.